Hello, this is Mary Farias here with your 5 minutes is better than nothing of self-development. We're reading my book, How to Study Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. We're in chapter 2 on desire. Let me start my timer here. And I'm on page 64. Overjoyed because of the changed world which had been brought to him through his hearing device, he rushed to the telephone, called his mother, and heard her voice perfectly. The next day, he plainly heard the voices of his professors in class for the first time in his life. Previously, he could hear them only when they shouted at short range. He heard the radio. He heard the talking pictures. For the first time in his life, he could converse freely with other people without the necessity of their having to speak loudly. Truly, he had come into possession of a changed world. We had refused to accept nature's error, and by persistent desire, we had induced nature to correct that error through the only practical means available. Desire had commenced to pay dividends, but the victory was not yet complete. The boy still had to find a definite and practical way to convert his handicap into an equivalent asset. Hardly realizing the significance of what had already been accomplished, but intoxicated with the joy of his newly discovered world of sound, he wrote a letter to the manufacturer of the hearing aid, enthusiastically describing his experience. Something in his letter, something perhaps, which was not written on the lines, but back of them, caused the company to invite him to New York. When he arrived, he was escorted through the factory, and while talking with the chief engineer, telling him about his changed world, a hunch, an idea, or an inspiration, call it what you wish, flashed into his mind. It was this impulse of thought which converted his affliction into an asset, destined to pay dividends in both money and happiness to thousands for all time to come. The sum and substance of that impulse of thought was this. It occurred to him that he might be of help to the millions of deafened people who go through life without the benefit of hearing devices. If he could find a way to tell them the story of his changed world, then and there, he reached a decision to devote the remainder of his life to rendering useful service to the hard of hearing. Isn't this a great story that Napoleon Hill shares with us about his son? It is so wonderful, and he touches on a few really important ideas here. We had refused to accept nature's error, and by persistent desire, we had induced nature to correct that error through the only practical means available. This is so important. There was persistence behind what they wanted. And so what happened was that persistence, that knowing that there has to be an answer out there somewhere, came when it was ready for him, right? So this hearing device was not available back when the child was young, right? But now, as this persistence has happened and this persistent desire kept moving forward throughout the years, that device found him as a result. And so we think that it happens, things like this happen by coincidence and happenstance, but that's not true. It is the persistent desire which pushes us to seek out opportunities and brings those opportunities to us because we're on the same frequency. We're looking for the same thing. And then the boy still had to find a definite and practical way to convert his handicap into an equivalent asset. So there's a law of opposites, the law of polarity in this universe, right? So if there is a question, there absolutely has to be an answer. There couldn't be a question if there was not an answer. So if there is a problem or a handicap or something that's holding us back, there is a solution on the other side. There is the equivalent success or asset, as Napoleon Hill calls it. And so we have to be on the lookout for this. So that is what this positive mindset is all about. It's not dwelling on the problem. It's knowing that there is a solution and focusing our energy, our thoughts, our desires on finding that solution. So he also said this impulse of thought and this inspiration flashed on his mind. And that's what happens. We get these ideas because we're on this frequency. Things start happening, ideas start flowing, and all of a sudden we reach our goals. This is a great story. See you tomorrow.